Hi, my name is Farah Wahiba. I work at Alt School as the makerspace teacher, and I teach in the creativity lab, tinkering and different maker activities and project-based learning. I have a degree in psychology, bachelor's degree in psychology from Stanford University, and a master's in education, the Learning, Design, and Technology program, also from Stanford. I've worked with children with autism as an ABA therapist, but more importantly, I'm a lifelong sibling of my brother who has autism, and I've probably learned more from him than from anyone else in my life. And being part of his family and being part of his upbringing as a big sister has taught me a lot about his challenges and his triumphs, and I've seen what works and what doesn't, and what work remains to be done for technology. Why is it good to have routines? Who needs them? I think it's good to have routines because they help manage your expectations of what comes next. What do I need to be mentally ready for? So in having routines, you feel like you have purpose and you feel like you know what's coming. I think that's why we're all comfortable with a very specific morning routine, a certain kind of breakfast, a certain brand of toothpaste. And it's the same for kids. They just want to feel safe. They want to feel like the same resources are available on a day-to-day basis, and the same people will be around on a day-to-day basis. That just makes us feel secure. It's important for us to be in different mindsets at different parts of the day too, to know when it's okay to use an outdoor voice when we're at PE or outdoors, when it's more appropriate to mellow out and be in the library reading our favorite book. There's different expectations and different appropriate behaviors at different parts of the day. And so when you have a routine, you're prepared mentally for these different behavioral roles. And if it takes you a while to transition, or you need the mental preparation between these roles, it can be really handy to have something that's going to prompt you and give you a heads up about what's happening. And that's the case for everyone. Even with my middle schoolers, if we're going to talk about a difficult topic, we prime them in the morning. We say, in a couple hours, we're going to have the chance to explore the topic of refugees, or we're going to have a guest speaker who's going to talk to you about the civil rights movement. It's something that we try to mentally prep them for and set expectations for how we expect them to behave. Without that, you have the element of surprise, and sometimes that doesn't go well. Sometimes people just need a moment to mentally prep. What am I about to experience, and what do I want to get out of it? Eventually that's something that adults learn to regulate for themselves, but for children it's something we have to help coach them with along the way. I think routines help us do that. In working with children with autism, within the hierarchy of prompting in ABA therapy, the hardest transition to make seems to be from verbal prompting to a less direct form of prompting, like the iconography or a hint. I think that's because it's easy to regress, because if your vacuum cleaner sucks up one of the Velcro pieces from your communication board, or you're on vacation and you left one of those pieces at home, well, the easiest solution seems to be to regress to a verbal prompt to remind your child to brush their teeth. And then it becomes difficult to rebuild that indirect prompt habit again. And so something that's wearable that the child has all the time would be a really great solution to being able to reliably count on something to prompt you that's not a person, and for your prompt not to be verbal. It's too easy for kids to get comfortable with a verbal prompt. Why that's a problem is becomes difficult for them to rely instead on less direct prompts, such as hints, icons, and then eventually, the highest form of the hierarchy of prompting is independence. You want to be able to get a cue from the natural environment. It's cold outside, so I need a jacket today, and I don't really need anyone to tell me that. And so if you're always stuck in the verbal prompting phase, it becomes difficult for the child to build independence and reasoning skills. So having something that's more reliable, that the child can have all the time, and that's flexible with their learning and can adapt with them and their needs, I think is priceless. So why a visual prompt? A visual prompt can be simplified into something that's more and more iconic and less literal. For example, if you're trying to get a child to wash their dishes, you could start with a photo of their kitchen and their sponge and their liquid detergent and their dish. Eventually, you could generalize to something more generic, just a clip art of a dish or a clip art of a sponge, and that could represent washing dishes. And eventually it could be just a cartoon character or a sound that reminds you that it's time to wash the dishes. And eventually you might vary the schedules of when the child sees this reminder, less and less, until eventually they've built independence and have built a good habit to wash this dish themselves without being prompted. And so I think a visual icon is a great idea because a child who is not yet literate can understand a visual prompt. And the visual prompt can be very specific or very general. And this helps the child build into a less and less direct prompt. It also helps them build flexibility, because if they don't see the picture of their specific kitchen with their specific sponge and their specific dish soap, well, it's okay, because they've been working towards that generalization and seeing different things that mean the same thing, which could be a really great practice in flexibility for children with autism and neurotypical children and all children of all sorts. Building flexibility and eventually reaching independence is a goal for every child. So I'm excited that you can build flexibility into the hardware, because children need flexibility because there's flexibility in the real world. You're gonna have substitute teachers sometimes. There's gonna be emergencies sometimes. You're gonna get picked up late from school once in a while because somebody got stuck in traffic. These are just day-to-day sorts of curveballs that we all go through. Being able to handle them with grace is important for all ages. So training flexibility is an important thing. And I think even for community building and empathy building, it's an important thing. When children, sometimes I encounter some problems at school of children playing with Legos or blocks, and when they're asked to clean up, they tell me each and every other person who was involved in cleaning up and using this material, because they don't feel personally accountable or they don't want to be singled out. They somehow feel punished for having to clean up a material that they were using, and they want to hold everyone else accountable. So you can build flexibility, and it's important to build flexibility for making good citizens in your schools and in your communities. To be able to say, you know, but you benefited from the blocks being out because I saw you using them to build the structure earlier. I know that person was helping too, but that person had to rush home. That person is in a conference with a teacher right now. I need you to be a good citizen right now and help clean up. If there could be a prompt or some sort of a reinforcement system built into this hardware for the child to be able to learn those good empathy skills and citizenship skills, that's going to translate enormously in their professional life, in their social life, and at home. So flexibility is great for everyone to learn, whether a child is autistic, whether a child is neurotypical, whatever. It's an important skill for everyone to have.